Hey guys, it's Carolyn again. This is another of my favorite books videos. This next group that I'm going to show you are some of my favorite children's books. So just books that I've read kind of growing up, or even children's books that I've just recently read because they're really good, and usually if a book's really good, I don't care if it is a kid's book, I'll read it. Alright, first up we have two Jerry Spinelli books. The first is Maniac Maguire by Jerry Spinelli. This book is so good. I read it when I was in 3rd grade, and this is one of the few books that I liked before I really was into reading. Yeah, I didn't really get into reading until 4th grade. I know that's really, really sad, but it's true. And this is probably the one book before then that I just loved a lot that wasn't like a picture book. And here, I'll read the back of this to you guys. Jeffrey Lionel Maniac Maguire might have lived a normal life if a trolley accident hadn't made him an orphan. After living with his unhappy and uptight aunt and uncle for 8 years, he decides to run, and not just run away, but run. And this is where the myth of Maniac Maguire begins, as he changes the lives of a racially divided small town with his amazing and legendary feats. This book is awesome. It reminds me sort of like the child version of Forrest Gump. Not the whole story, but the part where Forrest just decides to run, and he meets all these people along the way, and some of them he changes their lives, some of them change the way he thinks about his life. So yeah, this is a really good book. Hello.
Yo.
Sorry, my brother just came in and I wanted to say hello. Okay, next up we have Stargirl, also by Jerry Spinelli. This book, I read it when I was 12, and it's so amazing, because Stargirl is the kind of girl who, she's so different and such a non-conformist that she's the kind of person that people want to get to know but are scared of at the same time. And here, I'll read the back to you guys. Stargirl. From the day she arrives at quiet Mika High, I don't know how to say it. The hallways hum with the murmur of Stargirl, Stargirl. She captures Leo Borlock's heart with just one smile. She sparks a school spirit revolution with just one cheer. The students of Mika High are enchanted at first. Then they turn on her. Stargirl is suddenly shunned for everything that makes her different, and Leo, desperate with love, urges her to become the very thing that can destroy her. Normal. In this celebration of nonconformity, Newbery medalist Jerry Spinelli weaves an emotional tale about the perils of popularity and the inspiration of first love. This is such a good book. She is so awesome. She wears sundresses and plays the ukulele and has a pet rat. And, you know, she's the kind of person where I would want to be friends with this girl. And it's so good. I highly recommend it. Okay. Next we have Bridge to Terabithia by Katherine Patterson. And I will read you the back of this one. Jess Aaron's greatest ambition is to be the fastest runner in the 5th grade. He's been practicing all summer and can't wait to see his classmates' faces when he beats them all. But on the first day of school, a new girl boldly crosses over to the boys' side of the playground and outruns everyone. That's not a very promising beginning for a friendship, but Jess and Leslie Burke become inseparable. Leslie has imagination. Together, she and Jess create Terabithia, a magical kingdom in the woods where the two of them reign as king and queen, and their imaginations set the only limits. Then, one morning, a terrible tragedy occurs. Only when Jess is able to come to grips with this tragedy does he finally understand the strength and courage Leslie has given him. So, basically, it's a very unlikely friendship, and it's these two kids who form a bond and create their own world called Terabithia in the woods to kind of get away from the stress of real life. Jess usually has troubles with the expectations of his father, and both of them are kind of bullied at school, so it's just a magical way for them to kind of get away from life. And it is one of the saddest, most amazing books ever. Obviously, I'm not going to tell you why it's sad, because I recommend that you read it, because it's amazing. And yes, I know I'm shaking the book for emphasis, but I just do that a lot, sorry. Okay, next up is The Invention of Hugo Cabaret by Brian Selznick. Brian Selznick has been one of my favorite illustrators since I was little. He illustrated all of Andrew Clement's books, or most of Andrew Clement's books that I've read, and so that was my first introduction to him. And, so I'll get this one second. And he's just awesome. Here, I'll show you, I don't know if you guys can see, but that's one of his illustrations, that's Hugo. And his illustrations are just so realistic and detailed and beautiful, and this is a book that he wrote, and he wanted this book to be like a cross between a film, a play, and a book, and you totally get that feeling when you're reading this. It's mostly pictures. Here, I don't know if you guys can see that very well. But yeah, it's mostly pictures and then some words. And it's one of those books you can read in a day, but it's just so great. And it was inspired by the filmmaker Georges Méliès, and he actually, Brian Selznick, took Méliès's life and kind of fictionalized it in this a little bit. Like, he talked about real facts in this, but he also threw in some fictional stuff to incorporate into the story. And it's a brilliant book. The movie's amazing, and it really makes me, reading this really made me want to read Wonderstruck, which is his other one that's kind of exactly like this as far as the illustrations, and it's just a different storyline. But yeah, this book is amazing. Okay, next up we have Tales of Beetle the Bard by J.K. Rowling. I love this book. I got the English edition when I was in Scotland studying, because it's just so much prettier than ours. It's purple and lovely, and ours is like brown and yellow, and I don't like our copy. But yeah, these are the tales that Hermione reads. Dumbledore leaves Hermione a copy of this book in Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, and J.K. Rowling wrote down, and did she illustrate them? I don't know if she illustrated it, but she wrote down the actual tales and created this book after Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows came out, so I had to run out and get it. And basically they're just fairy tales for the wizarding children, and they're really good. So, I mean, if you've read Harry Potter, you know what these are, so they're awesome. Okay, next up we have, an Andrew Clement's book. The School Story by Andrew Clements. Same illustrator. I don't know if you guys can see that, but it's the same illustrator as The Invention of Hugo Cabaret, Brian Selznick. Or Selznick? I don't know how you say his name. But this book is so good. It's about a girl who, I think she's in 4th grade, and she writes her own story. And her best friend thinks it's so good that she thinks she should get it published. But yeah, Natalie, the main character, thinks that no one would really take her seriously since she's 10. So she and her best friend, with the help of their English teacher, form a fake, they give Natalie a fake name, or a pseudonym, and they turn Zoe into, that's Natalie's best friend, into Natalie's literary agent, and the teacher kind of helps them fund all of this and kind of helps them organize this fake literary agency and everything, and they send this book to even though I don't really show my writing to anyone, so I kind of skipped that part, but, it's a really inspiring and fun story, because you're like, hey, a 4th grader did that, that's awesome, even though it's fiction, but I mean, it's still a fun story nonetheless. So yeah, that was one of my favorites. And next up we have The Kildee House by Rutherford Montgomery. This book was what kind of got me into reading. My teacher used to have this thing when we were in 4th grade where if we were good, we got fake money. And, like, if we were good, if we got questions right, she would give us, like, little Monopoly money. And then at the end of the week, if we had enough money, we could pick something from this giant pile of stuff, like goodies that she brought in, like candy, little toys, stuff like that. And one week, this was in there, and I was like, it's a book! And, yeah, I know, weird, but, like, I was like, hey, that's gotta get me, like, the most bang for my buck, sort of, like, I mean, I was like, this is like a $7 thing or something, so I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna get that. And I read it, and I loved it, and it's about a hermit who, lives in the woods, and he's like 60 years old, and his wife died a long time ago, and he, has all of these animal friends. He has a family of hedgehogs living under his porch. And, one day, this new family moves into the woods just a little ways away from him, and their daughter, Emmy, I think her name's Emmy Lou, kind of stumbles upon his house, and, she befriends him because they find out that they have a mutual love of animals. So, she kind of becomes, sort of like an adoptive granddaughter to him. Not that close, but just a really good friend, and they help each other with the animals, and so it's kind of his first interaction with a person in a really long time. So it's a really good book. It sounds boring, but it's just so good when you read it. It's like one of those feel-good books, basically. Okay, next up we have Puppies in the Pantry, which is the second book in the Animal Arc series. Right after I read Kildee House, I really wanted to start reading more stuff, but since I was behind on liking to read, I kind of started with stuff that was a little, younger for me. Like, I started reading these when I was in 4th or 5th grade, and they are for about 3rd to 4th grade. But this is about 2 kids who, one of them, her parents run a clinic, a animal clinic, and, she helps them out with the animals, and basically in every one of the books, one of the animals goes missing, or there's some kind of mystery surrounding one of the animals that they have to solve. And it's, Mandy's the main girl, and her best friend James, and they, go around trying to solve these animal mysteries. And in this one, Animal Arc, that's the vet clinic, they have a really famous dog, come to them, like this dog is in movies and stuff, and the dog goes missing. So Mandy and James have to find the dog. And yes, that's Puppies in the Pantry. So yeah, it was just one of my favorite book series when I was little. Okay, last one. That is from the Mixed Up Files of Mrs. Basil E. Frankweiler, by E.L. Konigsberg. This is just such a cool little adventure book. Basically, it's this girl, Claudia, and her little brother, and she gets tired of life at home. So she and her little brother run away to, I think it's the Metropolitan Museum. Yeah, the Metropolitan Museum of Art. And they hide out in this museum. So here, I'll read you the back. Claudia knew that she could never pull off the old-fashioned kind of running away. So she decided to run not from somewhere, but to somewhere. Somewhere large, warm, comfortable, and beautiful. And that was how Claudia and her brother Jamie ended up living in the Metropolitan Museum of Art. And right in the middle of a mystery that made headlines. So yeah, this is just a really awesome adventure, and it's these two kids trying to make sure that people don't find out that they're living in this museum, and then all of this drama happens, so people find out, and they end up trying to fix that. But it's a very, very good book. I read this when I was in 6th grade, I think, and I actually used this in a paper when I was in college. So yeah, those are my favorite children's books. And next up, I'm going to do, I think, my favorite contemporary adult books. So look out for that. Don't forget to subscribe and comment. Thanks, guys.